Around 70 million years ago in what is now Argentina, there lived a bizarre and fearsome predator. Carnotaurus is one of the best known theropods from South America, and has become an iconic and fan-favorite dinosaur in the Jurassic World franchise. Carnotaurus made its debut in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and has since become a staple of the franchise. While the Carnotaurus in these films is actually not too far off from what the animal was like, what is showed in these movies is still quite different from what we see in the fossil record. So in this video, we'll be taking a look at what Carnotaurus was really like according to the latest science, and learn how new discoveries are helping us better understand this incredible dinosaur. We will then compare the real animal to its Hollywood counterpart, and see how scientifically accurate the Jurassic World version is. Enjoy! The fossils of Carnotaurus were discovered in 1983 from rocks of the La Colonia Formation by the world-renowned Argentinian paleontologist Jose Bonaparte. The name Carnotaurus means meat-eating bull, and it gets its name from the iconic double horns on the top of its head. Carnotaurus represents one of the most complete Abelisaurs ever found. The single specimen of Carnotaurus we do have consists of a complete skull alongside most of the animal's body. The main parts missing are the majority of its tail and chunks of the lower legs that cap off just below the knee. In addition, the Carnotaurus holotype even has fossilized skin impressions. Carnotaurus belongs to a group of theropod dinosaurs known as Abelisaurs. The Abelisaurs were a family of ceratosaurian theropod dinosaurs that appear to have diverged from other theropods during the early Jurassic, such as Berberosaurus. One of the earliest species was Abelisaurus, which is currently recognized as the basalmost abelisaurid. Abelisaurus had the characteristic small arms and four-fingered hands of later Abelisaurus species, but their arms were much more developed. Over millions of years of evolution, Abelisaur arms began to become extremely reduced in size, and some species even began to sport impressive cranial ornamentation. By the end of the Cretaceous, Abelisaurs were the dominant predators of the southern hemisphere. This group of theropods includes dinosaurs like Majungasaurus, Rajasaurus, and of course, Carnotaurus. Carnotaurus was one of the largest Abelisaurids to ever exist. The animal was roughly 7.5 to 8 meters long, making it about the same length as an average orca. Weight estimates put the animal at around 1.3 to 2.1 metric tons. This suggests that Carnotaurus was a rather lightly built dinosaur for its size. Carnotaurus is the only known Abelisaur with preserved skin impressions. Its skin was made up of small, non-overlapping scales ranging from 5 to 12 millimeters in size, arranged in a mosaic pattern. Scattered among them were larger bumpy structures called feature scales. The Carnotaurus holotype even had preserved skin around its skull. Unfortunately, these chunks of fossilized skin were removed and destroyed to free up the bones from the rock. Truly a tragic loss to paleontology. Like other Abelisaurs, Carnotaurus's arms were extremely tiny and lacked elbow bends. They almost looked more like paddles sticking out from the sides of its body. The arms of Carnotaurus make T-Rex arms look a lot less puny in comparison. Yet these seemingly useless appendages may have still had some purposes in life. One of the more popular theories is that these arms may have been used for display. Despite their complete inability to bend, the arms are still connected to the shoulder by a very flexible ball joint. This would have given them incredible degrees of movement from the body. Perhaps male Carnotaurus would have used their arms in a sort of waggle dance to attract the attention of females. After all, if there's one thing consistent throughout the animal kingdom, it's gotta be the art of seduction. Hopefully, for the sake of his bloodline, this Carnotaurus has serious riz. It could also be entirely possible that the arms were nothing more than vestigial. For now, their true purpose remains unknown, but whatever they were used for, the tiny arms of Carnotaurus are certainly a unique feature. Carnotaurus' skull is its most iconic feature. The meat-eating bull certainly earns its name, with two massive bony horns protruding from above its eye sockets. The function of these horns is, as of yet, unknown, though multiple suggestions have been made, including intrapacific combat, display, and even using their horns to harm prey. The rest of its skull, though fairly small in comparison to the rest of the animal, does have some notable features. The animal's skull is tall and boxy, with an interesting degree of kinesis of the lower jaw. This kinesis, another word for flexibility, would have possibly allowed the animal to swallow small prey species whole. Think something akin to modern-day varanids like Komodo dragons, rather than snakes. It's hard to tell exactly what Carnotaurus ate, given that there aren't any fossils found yet with this predator's bite marks. What is known about Carnotaurus is its relatively weak jaws. The range of motion for the animal's jaws allowed it to gulp down large chunks of meat, but also made the bite force for the animal weaker compared to other theropods. Carnotaurus may have quickly processed and devoured large chunks of organ meat and other calorie-rich parts of its prey. Alternatively, Carnotaurus might have specialized in hunting smaller creatures which it could swallow up whole. It could have also been an opportunistic scavenger, feasting upon whatever carcasses it came across. The fossils of Carnotaurus were discovered in the La Colonia formation of Argentina. During the end of the late Cretaceous, this region had a warm tropical to subtropical climate with dry and wet seasons. Carnotaurus wasn't the only dinosaur that called these lands home. Alongside Carnotaurus, a recently described titanosaur was found here. Titanomachia jimenezii was a relatively small sauropod, weighing around 7.8 tons and measuring 6 meters or 20 feet long. This species was classified as a saltosauroid titanosaur, related to dinosaurs like Saltosaurus and Opisthocoelocaudea. Titanomachia is rather small compared to most sauropods, but was still a large animal in today's standards. Fully grown adults would have been able to fend off hungry Carnotaurus and other predators, and they would have needed to, as Carnotaurus wasn't the only predatory dinosaur around. Shortly after Titanomachia was described in 2024, another predatory Abelisaur from La Colonia was published, Colonia inacasheli. This animal is considered closely related to Carnotaurus, but based on the fossils found so far, Colonia seemed to lack any fancy head crest and horns like its more iconic cousin. At just roughly 5 meters or 16 feet long, Colonia would have filled the niche of a medium-sized predator, while Carnotaurus reigned supreme as the region's apex. More expeditions in the La Colonia formation will help us broaden our understanding of this lost late Cretaceous Patagonian paradise. For now though, we do know that Carnotaurus was the apex predator of the region, and a rather impressive looking one at that. So now that we know more about Carnotaurus as an animal, let's take a look at how scientifically accurate the Jurassic World version is. For starters, let's take a look at what Jurassic World got mostly right about the animal. The overall proportions are quite exaggerated, but still relatively close to the real dinosaur. Furthermore, the Carnotaurus is depicted as having scaly skin with large feature scales throughout its body. While we know that many theropod dinosaurs had feathers, Carnotaurus is one species that we do know was mostly, if not completely, scaly. And lastly, the Carnotaurus in Jurassic World possesses its iconic dual horns. They're a tad off, but we'll get to that shortly. Now let's take a look at the inaccuracies. For starters, we'll begin by looking at the arms. The arms of the Jurassic World Carnotaurus are actually way longer than the real animals. And they even have an elbow bend, which the real Carnotaurus lacked entirely. Furthermore, the wrists of the Jurassic World Carnotaurus are pronated, which is incorrect. The wrist of the real Carnotaurus would have faced inwards towards the body. Next up, let's take a look at the larger feature scales. While the Jurassic World design does include these scales, they aren't accurately distributed throughout the body. For starters, Carnotaurus didn't have these scales on their neck. They also didn't have rows of spines running down from the neck to tail. Lastly, the feature scales on the Jurassic World Carnotaurus are depicted as running down the sides of the body in uniform rows. In reality, the animal's feature scales were more spread out across its body. For what it's worth, we now know this thanks to a relatively recent scientific paper that was published. Now let's take a look at the skull, since Carnotaurus is known from a complete skull unlike most other dinosaurs. The skull shape of the Jurassic World Carnotaurus is much more boxy compared to the real animal. Furthermore, due to how extremely shrink-wrapped the head of the Jurassic World Carnotaurus is, we can see that the orbit, antorbital fenestra, and infratemporal fenestra are all the incorrect shape. Next, we see that the horns are in the incorrect position, and are placed way further back than they should be. And finally, I know this is nitpicky, but we really gotta look at the teeth. Now the teeth are not too far off in shape, however, the Jurassic World Carnotaurus doesn't have enough of them. The Jurassic World Carnotaurus has 14 upper teeth and 14 lower teeth on each side, with a total of 56 teeth. In reality, this dinosaur had 16 upper teeth and 15 lower teeth on each side, with a total of 62 teeth. So interestingly enough, in order for the Jurassic World Carnotaurus to be more accurate, we're gonna need more teeth. Alright, by now I've said teeth more times than the average dentist does in a day. So now that we've gone over the inaccuracies, let's take a look at what went into the DNA of the Jurassic World Carnotaurus to make it look the way it does. For starters, we know that fragmented Carnotaurus DNA was used. Next up, because this is an InGen clone, we know that they used frog DNA in making this guy. Given that the clone has longer arms, it's possible that some DNA from a basal Abelisaurid, like Spectrovenator, was used. Next up, crocodilian DNA was most likely used. Due to the clone's reddish coloration, we're gonna assume that Cuvier's dwarf caiman DNA was used. In addition, the presence of DNA from reptiles like the spiny-tailed lizard would help give the Jurassic World clone its unique coloration. Another animal that could contribute to the clone's red, black, and almost volcanic look would be the Galapagos marine iguana. This would also help explain the presence of its dorsal spines, which the real animal didn't possess. So there we have it, our speculative genetic makeup of the Jurassic World Carnotaurus. Again, none of this is officially canon to the franchise. Rather, this was done so as a fun way to further differentiate between the fantasy of Jurassic World and the reality of the fossil record. Jurassic World is the most popular IP in modern media featuring dinosaurs, and while there are plenty of egregious examples where the movie monsters differ way too much from the real counterparts, Carnotaurus isn't one of those. In fact, the Jurassic World version stays mostly true to what made this real animal so special, while also taking creative liberties to fit in the franchise. In my opinion, Carnotaurus is a positive example of creature design and shows that we don't have to stray too far from the truth when reimagining these wonderful animals. Of course, the animals depicted in the film are always going to be far from perfect, but that's where these videos come in. I hope that we can all keep having fun, enjoying these movies, and learning new things about our favorite dinosaurs. Now, Carnotaurus was the first South American predator featured in the Jurassic World franchise, but it was far from the biggest. Be sure to check out my video on South America's largest predator, Giganotosaurus. I compare the real animal to the Jurassic World Dominions version, and let's just say there's a lot more to unpack here compared to Carnotaurus.